And I will keep an eye there in case folks have questions or comments. Hey, everybody. I'm Darcy. I'm the creator of the Vibrant Woman program. I'm a founding member of the certified coaches that work with Dr. Phil Maffetone. So I'm a math method coach. I want to explain what that means really quick because it has everything to do with what I'm going to teach in the carb challenge. And we've got my friend Morgan Joman here today to talk about that carb challenge, her experience with it. MAF method, MAF, stands for maximum aerobic function. And I'm going to be as brief as I can about that. It's a paradigm shift. And it's really important to me that people understand that this approach is not a get skinny quick, and it's not a get fit quick, and it's not a magic pill or potion. It's not even a long-term solution unless you do it long-term, which is obviously what I'm going to encourage people to do. Maximum aerobic function is referring to your body's metabolism. 80% of your body is made of what we call the aerobic muscle fibers. And these are the slow twitch, oxygen burning muscle fibers that are really best suited for endurance activities. It's what has kept humans alive and thriving on this planet for hundreds of thousands of years, walking miles daily at a low intensity, being able to move, be agile, be flexible, to be mobile without pain. I think that's really an important point to make. A lot of us think that you got to work out and work out hard, and then you're sore the next day, and that's how you know you did something. And maximum aerobic function, tuning into the body's aerobic system, making sure that it's in fine condition, that it's operating like what I like to call at its factory settings, the way your body was meant to work. That part of your body, which holds your skeleton together, by the way, it holds your organ systems in place where they're supposed to be. When it's working properly, we have really good proprioception. So your brain is at its best, sending signals to your muscles and keeping everything moving smoothly with good coordination and ease and flow and grace. And this is the way the human body was meant to be. When you have a healthy aerobic system, okay, when you are not aerobically deficient, you also have a great immune system. So you're less likely to have injury, you're less likely to have illness, right? And particularly what we want to call metabolic disease, okay? Metabolic disease, diseases that develop because the cells of your body are not able to do their jobs, okay? They're not, your metabolism is simply your cells functioning the way they were supposed to do, doing their daily work. And they can't. And they can't because our modern lifestyles have us jacked up and out of alignment with what your body was meant to do. We talk about that in terms of movement. I talk about that a lot. I'm going to talk more about that with the women who take, after this carb challenge, I'm going to explain to you, there's going to be an invitation to come and take the next step. I've designed everything about my program to be staying one step ahead of what I know you need next. And I know you need it because I needed it. And this is the journey that I have lived and walked myself back from complete and total burnout as a single mama of a brain injured kiddo who I mostly single-handedly rehabilitated and healed her brain, which is where I learned all of this. I had to one day apply it to myself. When my hair was falling out, my hormones were completely out of balance. I was allergic to pretty much every food on the planet except beef. I could eat beef. So my thyroid was down, my digestion was down, my adrenals were blown. I was burnt out. I mean, this is beyond adrenal fatigue. And I realized that I actually already had the tools to heal myself, and I just had to apply them to me. So all these many years later, I live in a place I call thriving. And I did all of that without a single pharmaceutical because I addressed the root cause in my body. So let's talk about root cause for a minute. One of the things that hurt our bodies most is when we bring food in, or food-like substances is what most of us are bringing in. They come out of boxes and bags. They have paragraph-long lists of ingredients. Most of those inflammatory ingredients, highly processed, very, very nutrient deficient and carb dense. So we are generations, my generation particularly, I grew up eating cereal in front of the Saturday morning cartoons, right? There was no real food in there. And so our bodies over time, because our bodies are so brilliant, they learn to adapt to these terrible environments. And so what we bring into our bodies really should be the building blocks for making new cells. Every cell in your body wants to be remade. And it would be remade in the image of a good metabolic code, and it would be remade in a way that you thrive if you were bringing in real food. And we just have not been taught that, and it's not normalized in our culture. And if you look around, walk into any grocery store today, and what's up front and center and highlighted and on sale is all the brightly colored things that are sugar laden and carb dense. And so this is very, very harmful to your human body and your human brain. So here's my invitation. Come join us in my 2-week carb challenge. 2 weeks is not going to save the rest of your life, but 2 weeks is going to give you a chance to come below your body's carbohydrate tolerance level, what your body can actually metabolize, the amount of carbs that will work for you without causing sleepiness after meals, intestinal bloating. What else? We'll talk to Morgan. We'll see what her symptoms were. And it can be slightly different for everybody. I'll post a list below. Take a look at the list and see if you have any of these signs or symptoms. This is your body's way of trying to say, hey, way too much carb for me. I do not know what to do about this. So when you come inside my carb challenge, I'm going to teach you what these 2 weeks and no foods. And the point of that is that you're going to be well nourished and you're not going to have an insulin response. And in the absence of that insulin response, you're going to see what your body would truly be able to do if it were left to its factory settings. People talk about having restored mental and physical energy. They lose weight, they lose inches, they lose inflammation, which means they lose pain. So they lose their headaches, all kinds of losses. What they gain, creativity. What they gain is a trust in their body. What they gain is a lot of confidence. And what they gain is an understanding, which means I can't promise that you'll never again make the choice to go beyond your body's carb tolerance, but you'll never again do it and not understand the cause and effect and what your body's trying to tell you. So I'm so delighted to have you with us, Morgan. Thank you for wading through all of that while I just explain why this is important and where it comes from and how it's different from other get skinny quick plans that are out there. This is not toxic diet culture. This is not about deprivation. People will say to me, oh, but is it sustainable? And I say, what could be more sustainable than actually eating within and living within the tolerance that your body has to metabolize certain foods? There's really nothing more sustainable than that in my experience. And I say that as somebody whose carb tolerance I've discovered over the years through trial and error is very, very low. So I also like to say this, let's please put an end to the high carb, low carb wars. Is low carb better? Are they right? Should you eat carbs? Is there value in carbs, right? So there's all of this confusing, conflicting misinformation that is presented as if it's a black or white issue. And whenever you find yourself in the presence of only two choices, you know you're not in the right paradigm. Right? You need to elevate your consciousness and learn more. This is something that is determined by every single body. And it's a day by day, week by week thing. In the summer, my carb tolerance is higher than it is today. In the middle of winter in the Northern Hemisphere. Lots of reasons for that. And you're going to learn more when you come inside the challenge. But today, let's talk to somebody who's done this with me. This is Morgan Doman. She's a good friend. She's one of my vibrant women. She's been my business coach, and she's somebody who I admire for always asking really good questions. And by that, I mean, they're usually the hard questions to answer because they're important, they're focused, and they tend to lift up a truth. So Morgan, thank you for being here. Thank you for doing the carb challenge with us before. I know you're going to do it again. And I guess I'd love to start with asking you just about that. Why do you want to do it again? What does this mean to you?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I've been an admirer of you for a long time, and I was, I'd known you for a really long time, even before I entered the carb challenge, and I was really looking to understand why I couldn't get a grip on weight control, even if I was eating like a calorie restricted diet or other diets, I could lose, but then I gain, and it was like up and down. And even though I still have a lot going on with my weight today, it really helped me understand how carbs have being over my carb tolerance has really impacted my body. And honestly, I didn't expect a lot of the changes that I did see. I felt very much more like clear in my head, a lot less fatigue, just more energy in general. Like I didn't have that dip after like lunch, which now if I eat over my carb tolerance, I get it. So it really helped me understand, oh, okay, like this is what carbs are doing to me. And I think I'm very reluctant. I don't like to make carbs look bad, because carbs are vegetables too. So it's this interesting feeling. But for me, it's just, I realized how much these foods cause inflammation in my body. They cause pain, and just a whole host of, and you talk a lot about this, but like inflammation in the brain, which is like that fogginess and not being able to remember things. And so I'm doing it again this year. I think I'll always do it. I really like coming back to it at this time of year because I think right now the propaganda and marketing around everything sugar is intense, and I think we're all feeling it. It's like enough already. And It's just really nice to come back. It's super fun to be in a community of people doing this at this time because I think it's very countercultural. I think a lot of people are, including myself, like I understand this, like, well, January 1st, January 1st, and it's like, well, no, let's do something really healthy now to help us get back in the swing. I love how you've positioned it between Thanksgiving and Christmas, so you can still have those traditions, but at the same time, like really get into how your body is reacting to some of these foods. Because I think for me, like I was raised very healthy, like it was like even up against the standard American diet, very, very healthy. But I would always look at like my brothers who could eat certain things and be fine. And it's really just because we have a different carb tolerance, or at least when we were kids, we did. Maybe now it's who knows what it is now. But as kids, probably had a lower carb tolerance than they did. So it just really helps you understand how many carbs you can have. And I think for so many people, for me included, at first that felt very restricting. But now that I've come to understand, like, okay, this is my body, like it's okay. And it's taken me a while to get there. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't get there in 2 weeks. And I really encourage everyone to not look at this as like 2 weeks diet. Let's, lose 20 pounds and then, you know, because that's kind of how I looked at it for a long time. And I'm starting now to look at it more of just like, I have to address the lifestyle stuff underneath, but I think that comes with doing it the second time. So anyway, I had so many great gains the first time around. That's why I'm doing it again.
Yay. Thank you for that background. You mentioned so many things. We could take any of those threads and really have a longer conversation here than people are probably going to be patient for. But you mentioned something, so your brothers had a different carb tolerance than you. And this happens a lot. And I hear this along gender lines a lot. XX chromosome people with our more complicated, sophisticated symphony of hormone changes makes us tend to have a lower carb tolerance than XY chromosome people. I do understand some of that. I don't understand all of it. I think we're still exploring what does, because we also have to look at this within the context of the modern world, where for women, particularly men too, but we see hormone disruption from so many of the toxins in our environment, which is another thing I help women address after the carb challenge. For people who want and need to learn more, there's an invitation to come into my Vibrant Woman course where we will talk more about toxins and products. And, stress has a lot to do with it. Stress will change your carbohydrate tolerance. Genetics has some to do with it. If you got your one grandmother's brown eyes, you might have also gotten her O blood type, which means you also got her lower carb tolerance as opposed to people with a different blood type. A and B blood types tend to have a higher carb tolerance and for different kinds of carbs. So that's the other thing I was really happy to hear you say that you've been looking at is, it's not like that's what I say. Let's not have high carb, low carb wars. Are carbs bad? No. Are you eating some with nutrients in them? Okay. And are you eating ones that you tolerate? Okay, right? So this really is about not depriving yourself to quick lose some weight, although that often does happen for many people, particularly if you're pretty new to it. And but it's a bit of a trial and error thing. And the more we experiment with this, and particularly with expert guidance to kind of help us, the more we begin to understand our own bodies. And then I love what you said, because this is so true for me too, and probably why I'm so committed to doing this work, is that, yeah, I hit a stage where it was like, damn, I can't eat that anymore. And it's not because I can't, it's because I can't eat that knowing the harm that it causes me. And I actually began to see, after I kind of got over my grief and my self-pity party about it, I realized that I was actually in a beautiful place to be able to make that choice, and that it was a choice, and that I really wanted to choose things that work for my body out of a sense of love for it. And that's the place I see so many of people in general, a lot of women who come up close to my work who eventually begin to find that. And it does feel like a self-respect. And that's what I hear you saying. It's like, not just trying to like beat this body into a shape that society says it should be, or that will make it more lovable, in the opinions of whoever's the loudest opinion trumpeter at the time. But it's really something that becomes meaningful to you, yourself, and you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a journey, and I think that's why I think it's really important to hear you when you say this is not a quick fix, because it's not. I think a lot of vibrant women kind of there's layers, through all of this, and society makes it really hard. There's so many layers to it. And I just encourage everyone to try it because it's 2 weeks. It's really fun. It's, I think I also would say, like, if you're scared to do it, you probably really need to do it
Probably
because,
right.
you probably know in the back of your head, like, I'm eating something that's not working with my body. And I think, Darcy has this amazing symptom chart that I really recommend. Go and look at that and see where your symptoms are, because it's it's really helpful to know, like, there's so many symptoms. Like, it's insane to me how many. And it's actually something that I've learned through seeing a lot of women go on this journey is, you know, it's really easy for someone who's like easily gains weight to look at a woman who doesn't gain weight and be like, so easy for her. But then again, underneath it all, she has like hormonal imbalance, you know what I mean? So it's like there's so many different symptoms that look nothing alike. So I really encourage everyone to go look at that or reach out to Darcy and go, here are my symptoms. Will this work for me? Because literally the range is insane. It really is crazy. Even I'm shocked sometimes by the range. So I really, really recommend that. If you're not sure, reach out to Darcy and ask, like, do these symptoms, could they be relieved by the carb challenge? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of people sometimes it takes me some work sometimes to help people understand how, because a lot of these symptoms are also considered normal in our culture. It's like, oh, uh, PMS. You're Everybody has a painful period, right? That's why there's Midol. No, healthy bodies don't have painful periods. They notice their periods. There's different sensations at different times. There's a need for rest, perhaps. Yeah. There could be, but no, they're not painful. Um, yeah. So and sometimes it takes me a while to help people understand, oh, your frequent injury. I work with a lot of athletes. They want to get faster. We do the heart rate training, and they're reluctant to do the diet stuff because runners need bananas, right? Everybody knows that. No, they don't. And it's a very poor fuel source, actually, because, yeah, carbs and sugar are fast burn. And so, again, it's not a matter of right or wrong. It's a matter of which ones and how much. And this is really the doorway to that. A lot of those symptoms are considered normal, and a lot of them do look different. They look unrelated, and it can take a little bit of work and some expert guidance to understand how they're connected. And that truly it goes back to the aerobic system of the body and to how your body is able to metabolize these certain macronutrients and how they're used. Um, so yeah, do you want to share? Were there any symptoms that you had that were resolved during the carb challenge that surprised you at all, or anything noteworthy?
I think the biggest one was the brain fog and fatigue, like during the carb challenge. Those were the ones that I was like, whoa. Because I didn't really realize how bad they were until I did the carb challenge, to be honest. Like I didn't go into it even realizing that was a thing. So those were probably the two main ones during the carb challenge. I definitely lost some weight. I felt later, I was definitely less bloated, not just in my stomach, but like around my face. And, that's like the first, when I'm not eating well, and eating over my carb tolerance, that's always the first sign I have of like feeling bloated.
Mhm.
In my gut, but also in my face too. I just have a very naturally like puffy face. So yeah, those are definitely what I saw. And I never really dealt with like extremely painful periods,
Mhm.
or like a huge hormonal disruption, but I I saw a lot of women, have a lot less pain, feeling. So I can say like it wasn't for me personally, but I saw that a lot.
Mhm.
I think women are sold such a bill of lies when it comes to their periods and having, oh, this is just part of being a woman or whatever. It's
Right.
not. Oh. And I think, if that's something that you're dealing with, just try it out. Like it can't hurt. You never know. Um, you just never know really how much this could shift it. And that's the other thing, if you get to the end of the 2 weeks and like you haven't seen any changes in anything, well, then maybe carbs aren't your issue. Um, but at least at least you know what Darcy has to teach. And I have a feeling like no one could get out of the carb challenge without some changes, but you never know. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. I like to say, if you have these symptoms, and sometimes I name them one by one, the top one for me is anxiety. That's
Mm-hmm.
my number one symptom, of being over my carb tolerance, particularly if I do it with straight sugar, something like a chocolate bar, which would be that's really the only sugar I would eat.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, got anxiety, it's the sugar. And then I like to say, prove me wrong. Because for some people, removing the sugar for 2 weeks or longer may not be the only thing they have to do, right? Anxiety, particularly the brain stuff, has a lot also to do with our gut biome. It has a lot to do with amino acids, um, which are the building blocks of those neurotransmitters as well. And so it has a lot to do with adequate protein, and so it's not the only step, but it's the first step. But I like to say, prove me wrong, because if you take that first step, you're going to see the improvement, and then we can take the next step.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah. Well, I'm glad you're going to join us again. I'm excited
Yes.
to have you there. And the more we have people return year after year, um, it becomes a really fun community, because there's coaching for me, but there's coaching from others, like, right? So we all kind of just circle up together, and we get to share our experiences, and we get to learn from each other. And I think that's what's so valuable, particularly, again, in a climate, in a culture that, well, for women especially, and again, this carb challenge is for all people. Okay, all people, um, all ages, anybody over 18. Although carb tolerance does impact people younger than that, and for a lot of the parents who come into the group, they begin to understand, "Who I understand my kids so much better now, and I know what to do it has a lot less to do with the deprivation or removing the carbs. That is one
Mhm.
very, very important part. But as Morgan mentioned, there's also, well, then what am I going to eat? Well, you're going to eat all of these other real foods. And it turns out there's so many of them and there's so much variety and there's so much abundance in real foods that some people just didn't even recognize or realize or know how to tap into. And so the results tend to be for two reasons. We stopped doing the stuff that was hurting us and we're doing more of the stuff that actually our bodies need. And in that in that overlap, we see the thriving that wasn't there before, that was trying to be. So I'm delighted you're going to join us. I was going to ask
I'll
you
see
one more
everyone in the
question.
group.
And I forgot. Yeah. What else did you want to say? I know what I was going to ask you. So for any newcomers, do you have any advice? Any like, do this, don't do that, tips for success their first time around?
My biggest tip is go to Costco, go to Sam's Club, go to like a wholesale place, BJ's, whatever, and get a lot of meat. Because the biggest issue I found in the first few days, this goes away after the first few days, but you have this feeling of like scarcity, like I don't have anything to eat. And meat is something that almost everyone can tolerate and is, okay on the carb challenge. So make sure you have like really high, like great protein sources in like abundance because you will eat a lot. I think the first few days of the I just ate steak like a lot because your
Sounds
body
awesome.
just yeah, and I think
Steak,
it's
give
like
me more steak. Yes.
yeah, just get like a bajillion eggs, get
Yeah.
bacon, just make sure you have everything, all the meat, like because that stuff is expensive. It's just good to go get a lot of it, have it in the freezer, and just have it. That's like my biggest piece of advice. I was talking to my boyfriend and I was like, we're going to Costco on Sunday to get all this. I'm not going now because before Thanksgiving I'll get like it's too much. But um it's just such a great thing just to prepare yourself so you never feel that scarcity and don't get hungry because then is when that thought is like, do I really need to do this? What's the point? All that stuff. All those thoughts come into your head when you get really hungry. So just don't let yourself get hungry, food prep through it or whatever. But yeah, that's my biggest piece of advice. Yeah.
That's so helpful and it's so insightful. And it really brings me to one other thing that I wanted to say is that this is not a diet and it's not a deprivation. And so what a lot of people do that sets them up for failure actually is they're not eating carbs and they're also not eating. And I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to talk to you about this. I'm going to be the broken record talking about I'm going to teach people not just what to do but why. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the other important thing that I'm here to offer is the why. Because if you understand what your cells are trying to do, then you're going to be set up for a whole lot more success as your body begins to shift because the shift from being sugar dependent, and sugar is a poor source of energy. If you're sugar dependent, your cells are hooked on that. They think that's what they want and need. They're gonna tantrum like toddlers somewhere between day 2 and 5. A lot of people, if the more sugar dependent you are, the crankier you probably will be. And that's why again we do this in community so you can have support. There's going to be 6 live sessions with me. I'm going to go live with you like every other day so that we can talk about it. You can ask me your questions. I can explain. Oh, that's how you're feeling. Oh, you dreamed of cinnamon rolls. That's number one. I know you're miserable for a minute, but that's so exciting because that means your body is about to shift again back into factory settings. You are on the threshold of fat burning, my friend. Do not give up now. Don't go back, right? I say this all the time. This is like a journey to San Diego, and you can't get halfway there and turn around and give up and go back. You have to keep going. And so I'll be there to coach people because feeling hungry and hangry is a sign of a sugar dependent metabolism. Once you shift into fat burning, um, those cravings are going to go away. And that's my second. Anxiety is my first symptom that I've gone over my carb tolerance, particularly with pure sugar. My second symptom, they usually actually come right together, but is cravings for more. And one of the things that a lot of people claim is that their cravings are gone. And so I just want to invite you to think for a minute, what might you create with your life? What might you do with your time and your energy? What might your life look like if you were not obsessed? Not your fault. if you were not obsessed with just food all the time. It's not your fault. It was never about willpower. It's about metabolism. So I'm inviting people to step again, sort of into a new paradigm, over the threshold to experience your body and brain in a new way. So there will be 6 live sessions with me. You are going to, as soon as you sign up, and the link is somewhere around here. Once this goes live, we'll put the links up there. And there's a place to register. As soon as you do that, you're going to get an email from me that will have some tools in it. Important to know this. You want to make sure you go get that email and mark me as a safe sender so you can have everything you need to start successfully. Morgan's talking about stocking up on the foods that are allowed, the low carb foods that you need to bring nutrients into your body to help with the shifting in your metabolism. And there's a list of those. So you're going to get a guide that explains this. You're going to get a shopping list that with suggestions of what to buy. You'll get an actual list of the yes and no foods, so you kind of know what to clean out of your pantry, put, out of sight, out of mind for a couple of weeks, explain to your people what you're doing and how you need support with this. I love that you said, right, your boyfriend, he's going to go with you to Costco. So you need to tell people that are important to you what you're doing and why. Invite people to join you if you would like. The more, the merrier. The other thing that's going to be in that email is a link to a white paper. So the actual scientific journal article written by my coach, mentor, friend, Dr. Phil Maffetone, that explains a little more in depth. So those of you who are sciencey or those of you who are CI, carbohydrate intolerance deniers, go read it and learn a little bit more about how this was discovered and how it. So Morgan was talking about the symptoms. I didn't know all this stuff was related. The article will help you understand more. So go read that. The more you know, the more you're set up for success with this. But the resources there are really important. The shopping guide. I also included a week's worth of a menu plan so that if you're thinking, okay, this is so different than what I usually eat. If I can't eat this that I'm used to, what do I eat, Darcy? And the answer's there. There's a menu. And if we're going to do this for 2 weeks, you just get to use that menu twice. Or what's fun is by the second week, you're going to be up close to other amazing, inspiring people like this. We'll be recipe swapping. You'll be a pro at this in no time. So have faith in yourself, have confidence. Come on in, jump in. Morgan, any last thoughts you want to leave people with?
I will see everyone in the group. I'm so excited, and just try it out, guys. It you never know. You never know. I really just encourage you to take a chance and do it. And yeah, I don't think you'll be disappointed.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah, we start December 1st, everybody. So go ahead and get on that list because Thanksgiving is right around the corner. It's tomorrow, right? Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, friends, if that's what you celebrate. I'm thankful for you and this community and my followers and the people who are willing to listen to me, which ultimately means listening to your beautiful body. So let me just leave you with this. You get one. You get one body. So some of the people I'm missing this year, I used to celebrate with, they're not here. And some of them, it feels like they could be, maybe they should have been. If it weren't for diabetes, if it weren't for the addictions, if it weren't for the poor health that took them out just way too soon, way, way, way too soon. And folks like my grandmother, whose diabetes was left her with, half a foot and pneumonia in her final days. And she couldn't hear me. She couldn't hear me. She saw my journey. She saw Haley's journey. It didn't connect for her. There was going to be nothing I could do for her health but love her and watch and walk alongside her as her last years were really full of, pain and an illness and, just debilitating disease. And the reason that was so hard for me to watch is because I do not believe that that has to be necessary. So I'm here to say, just because we've seen other people take that path, does not mean that is the path that's meant for you. And if you have people in your gene pool that have taken that path, let that be your inspiration to do different in your body, because you likely have the same tendencies, the same genetic weak links, the same carb intolerance that you saw them expressing as disease. And let this be an inspiration to you. So I'm here. Take my hand. Come on aboard and let's do this together. Thank you, Morgan.
Thank you
I'll
so much.
see you soon. And I'll see everybody inside the Carb Challenge. Come join us. Love you. Bye.